be really tempting to want to redesign or rebuild a product that's been around for a while. But often it's much more of an undertaking to do that redesign and rebuild, and it can be easier to instead build a brand new product. The Pivotal Tracker team had to do this recently, and in today's episode, they're going to share how they evaluated building a brand new product. So stay tuned. Welcome to Build, brought to you by Pivotal Tracker. I'm your host, Purnima Vijay Shankar. In each episode of Build, innovators and I debunk a number of myths and misconceptions related to building products, companies, and your career in tech. When you've been building a product for a while, it's natural that you start to see tech debt and product debt accrue to a point where it backs you into a corner, and it's really hard to add new features without rebuilding or redesigning it. But at some point, it may not make sense to keep adding to that product, and instead, you may want to build a brand new product. In today's episode, we're going to dive into why you may decide to build a brand new product instead of redesigning or rebuilding your existing one. And to help us out, I've invited two lovely ladies from the Pivotal Tracker team, Lisa Doan, who is a product manager for Pivotal Tracker, as well as Vera Reynolds, who is a software engineer on their team. Thanks for coming on the show, you two.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
So I know that Pivotal Tracker now has been around for over 10 years, has over 100,000 active users, and there's just been a lot of features and a lot that you've accomplished in the past 12 years. And so adding to it might have been a challenge, and that's why you decided to go a slightly different direction. But before we even go and talk about that new direction, let's talk about what even caused this to happen. Let's get in a time machine, go back in time, and what spurred the change for a different direction.
Sure. It was really a confluence of a lot of different things happening all at once. And so on the product side, as a team, we were frustrated because we weren't able to really deliver major features that our customers had asked for. On the engineering side, there was a lot of tech debt and a lot of frustration working in the code base. And on the customer side, there was also a lot of frustration that we hadn't really put out major features in a long time, and our product had somewhat stagnated. And so all of that led to us realizing that we needed to do something big, but there were so many things in our way that we wanted to deal with. And so that's kind of what led to the origin of our project.
Yeah, and can you give us a timeline, like roughly when did that start?
Sure. I think as a team, we started to recognize about a year ago that something big needed to happen, and then it's just been a gradual process since then.
So looking back, can you point to maybe a cause or several causes that led to the product starting to decline?
Sure. So the product was actually born out of an internal team. So Pivotal itself started as a consultancy, and back in 2006, there wasn't a great backlog management tool. And so the engineers built one that suited their needs. But because of that, Tracker was always a bit of an accidental product. We built it for our own needs, but clients would then ask to take it home after engagements, and then it just grew virally from there. And because of this, we never really had a clear mission or vision. It was just something that we built, that we had a problem, and then we solved for. And so that over time became a problem because we added all these different customers, but they had varying problems, and we didn't have anything to pin our work to. And so we didn't have a strong opinion on which direction we should take the product. And so that led to lots of different features that were kind of scattered in how they addressed user problems.
I know in the next episode, we're going to talk a lot about how you changed your engineering and your product team's whole process. So we'll pause on that. What I want to talk about now is why you decided against redesigning and rebuilding Pivotal Tracker.
Sure. So in maybe October of last year, as a group, we had finally realized that we were at this point that we needed to make a big call on something. And the initial thought was like, yeah, let's just rebuild. It's just so much easier. The code base is so challenging. No one wants to work in it anymore. Because it was an accidental product, there was never a strong architectural vision. And so it was all sorts of different tech stacks everywhere. And so we decided that we were going to have this team go out and they would re-envision Tracker. We even called it like Tracker, but better. And really quickly, we realized that wasn't such a great idea. Tracker was built for a specific problem, which is backlog management. And that was the problem in 2006. But here in 2018, the problems are different. There are lots of different backlog management tools that any team can choose and tailor to their specific needs. And Tracker has kind of fallen behind on some of those things. At the same time, the problem that a lot of our customers have is around knowing what to build. Teams now know how to build software pretty well. And there are lots of tools they can choose from, but how do they choose the right product to build? And so Tracker doesn't solve for that in any way at all.
So you make the decision that you're going to build a new product, and the Pivotal Tracker team is going to continue building that because there are two different needs, kind of two different missions and visions. So let's dive into what happens next with the new product.
Sure. So one of the goals for our team was to sort of go back and reconnect and realign with a larger organization. And Tracker kind of had its own destiny within Pivotal, and we wanted to make sure that both Tracker and whatever initiative we started with our team were more aligned with Pivotal. And so one thing we did is we went back and talked to our leadership, and we talked to other users within the organization to make sure that we were kind of following their pain and solving the right problems for them, whether it's within Tracker or with a new product.
Okay, so you're at a point now where Tracker is continuing to be built by a team. You form a new team to discover what this new product is going to have in it.
Sure.
So what are some next steps?
So from Tracker, we knew there's a big space of problems that our users were dealing with. And so we wanted to really dig into that.
Okay.
Another goal that we had was bringing our team closer to the Pivotal organization. And so over time, Tracker had sort of become a silo on its own. And so part of our product, our team's goal was to reconnect with the broader organization and make sure our product is aligned with that. And so we went out and talked to various stakeholders. We talked to the CEO, we talked to the leadership in cloud R&D, and understood where they think the business is going and how we could support that.
Got it.
And so we had to rebuild a lot of those bridges, but it's been extremely valuable because they provide us input that we didn't have previously that helps guide us in terms of the decisions we make when we're building this new product.
So what became the focus of this new product?
To get a little meta, we've been using Tracker to develop Tracker, and it's a great tool, and it allows teams to go fast. However, what it doesn't help with is direction. And so one thing we've noticed is that we as a larger Tracker team have been going fast for a while, but we're struggling with direction. And so that's the problem space we're trying to solve with the new product, is to kind of complement Tracker in a way that allows you to find that direction and continue on it.
Got it. Okay, so you're now in a new problem space. And then did you start getting like your hands dirty? Did you start writing code? What's kind of the next thing that you did after that, after you defined the problem space?
We did a lot of research.
Okay.
And I say that kind of tongue in cheek a little bit. I'm an engineer, so it's like it was a learning experience, to put it mildly.
How many months of research do you think you did?
We did about 4 months.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the time that you were doing these, were you also running experiments or something else?
Yeah, we actually had a lean startup coach that worked with us for some time, and she really helped us understand those practices because there was a lot of paralysis early on. As we started exploring this new problem space, there was just so much that we not hadn't thought of, but we hadn't seen eye to eye for a while. And there was a lot of things we could solve.
Yeah.
And, get a little bit distracted, like a dog in a pavilion of squirrels or something.
Yeah.
And so our coach really helped us develop a practice where we create experiments, like you said, and we talked to users, and we had really defined assumptions that we're trying to debunk or prove. And so we did about 30, I think, experiments before we started building.
Okay.
So we took it really seriously.
Yeah. Wow, 30 experiments. So what do these look like?
Oh, there's a huge range. So we did a lot of generative interviews where we just sit down and talk with customers. We've also generated prototypes and put those in front of customers and see how they interact with them. We've also done fun things like feature fakes and experiments with the existing product to get a feel for what our customers are really looking for.
What's a feature fake?
A feature fake is where you build the facade of a feature and you present it to your users as if it's a real thing, and then see how they interact with it. If they like it, and then you gather feedback around that to see whether or not they had a positive experience or if that's something they might be interested in before you actually do any of the work to build it for real.
So after 30 experiments, I'm sure you uncovered a lot. How do you decide to whittle things down?
Sure. So some of the things we've done came from Pivotal Labs, like discovery and framing and inception. Those are kind of early stage meetings that help you scope your work and decide what you're going to build. And you have to remember, we were still in that phase of research, and we were always trying to keep each other accountable about not building things prematurely and not building too much. And so we used those practices, and we had a meeting where we wrote just the bare minimum stories we needed to accomplish in order to have an MVP, and started there.
So after 30 experiments, I'm sure you've got a lot of customer insight. How do you whittle that down?
So as part of every experiment, we wanted to end on a headline or major learnings and pain points that our users needed to be fixed. And that kind of gave us a list that we could start with. And we started there and wrote out features. And we actually are continuing experimenting as we're building. And we're validating prototypes and making sure we're only building the minimum things and only building what we need.
Got it. And did you ever run into knowledge gaps where people on your team didn't know?
Yes, we did.
So many knowledge gaps.
So Pillar Tracker is a very engineer-centric team, for better or worse. And I think there's strong engineer practices, but I've never had done user research until this team. And so there was a lot of knowledge gaps there for sure. For me as an engineer, and I'm sure Lisa can agree as well, with lean practices and experimenting fast and focused learning, things like that.
Got it. And how did you go about assembling your team together? Because I know, like you said, you had your tracker team and then there was a new team put together. So how did that come about?
Where we were in the beginning of the year is we were still believing that we were going to rebuild Tracker at the time. And so moving forward with the new product, we knew we needed people on the team who were willing to kind of step out of their roles a little bit. And so we knew we had to step into this big body of research. And we also had so many engineers on the Tracker team that we also wanted to keep involved and teach some of the practices. And so we added engineers on our team, in addition to myself and a designer, engineers who are very empathetic, who care a lot about building features that users care about and love. And so that was something we definitely looked for when we were adding people to our team.
So let's talk about how you assembled your team, because you mentioned there was the Tracker team and now you have a new team for a new product.
We were pulling from the original Tracker team, but going into the new product, we knew there was a huge body of research that had to be undertaken. And so when we were assembling the team, we were looking for people who were extremely empathetic and could really would be willing to adopt some of the skills that we were lacking on the team. So things like user research, talking to customers. And so we looked for engineers and testers and designers and PMs who were very focused on understanding the user's problems and then trying to iterate our way towards a product for those people.
Okay, so to recap, you had a conversation at the beginning of last year or some point last year where you decide you're going to build a new product, you go out, kind of dial into stakeholders, and then from there you decide, okay, we're going to assemble a team, fill in knowledge gaps, and what happens after all of that? You start building?
Eventually.
Yeah.
Like I said, it took about 30 experiments to get to the point where we started building, but it was a happy day.
Yeah.
It was a happy day on the team. And we started building around June, and we had just recently began rolling out our MVP. So it's a pretty exciting time.
Yeah.
So one major thing that we haven't talked about yet that was critical to our success so far is that we had to come up with a mission and vision. And so prior to having that, we were just sent out into the world with this idea of like, we're going to re-envision Tracker. But that's so broad. That's such a huge space. Like Tracker has 100,000 users. Wow. And they're all across the board, right? They could be just a small startup team. It could be multiple enterprise teams that are using this product. And so it's extremely difficult to know where to start. And because of that, we ended up in a place of paralysis because it's like, do we attack this problem, that problem? Who knows? And so we ended up spinning for a while. And so when our innovation coach arrived, that's the first thing she noticed. And she said, the first thing she went about doing is getting us to agree on a mission and vision. And that was really a huge turning point for us because whenever we could make a decision, we would bounce it against that and ask, is this in service of our mission? And if not, then we would have to readdress it. Otherwise, we felt comfortable moving forward. And that really started the ball rolling, is just having something to point at and agree on that this is what we're choosing to focus on.
Was there anything else that you needed to do before you could start actually coding?
I think the important part was to not go head down into coding and not come up for air. And so we are trying to keep engineers involved in research and continue to spin that track and not go off and just build.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing to remember for us now.
So was there anything else that you did before you dug into building and writing code?
Not really. That was about it. However, we're all trying to remind each other to be mindful of not go on the rails of building and start going fast as we did previously on Tracker, and really be mindful of that user-centric value.
Mm-hmm. So I know we're going to share a lot of these best practices in the next episode. So I'm going to end it here. And thank you both for coming and sharing how you decided to go and build this new product instead of doing a rebuild or redesign.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Now I want to know, are you thinking about doing a rebuild, redesign, or maybe building a brand new product? If so, what's been your approach? Let me know in the comments below this video. And that's it for today's episode of Build. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to receive the next episode, where we're going to go into more detail around how to keep a new product on track. Ciao for now.
This episode of Build is brought to you by our main sponsor, Pivotal Tracker. We'd also like to thank our Platinum Patreon patrons, Corky Bites, The Developer Show, and Jamie Hand. Finally, thanks to the following new patrons. If you've enjoyed watching Build, please consider becoming a patron and contributing on Patreon at www.patreon.com/build. You can pledge $5 a month or more, and your pledges will go towards helping us produce and promote the show. In exchange, you'll receive perks like being mentioned in the credits, digital copies of our latest book, and Platinum patrons will receive exclusive perks like monthly online group coaching, where I provide more hands-on coaching on a number of topics related to entrepreneurship and leadership. To find out more and contribute, please visit www.patreon.com/build.
So what happened after you decided, okay, we're going to make the firm decision to build a new product? Vera, maybe you can...
Oh, sorry. I was just zoned out because I was in the last one.
Yeah. So what was the ultimate goal of the new product then?
Tracker. Yeah. Sorry. Do you want to answer this? You have to get answer.
So what became the focus of this new product?
So to get a little meta. God damn it. Meta.
No, I like the way you said it, honestly. I thought that was cooler. Welcome to Femgineer's Confident Communicator course introductory video series. I'm Purnima Vijay-Shankar, the founder of Femgineer.
And I'm Karen Catlin, a former tech executive who's now an advocate for women who are working in the tech industry.
For the last 22 years, I have been speaking in public, and for the last 8 within the tech industry. I have given a TEDx talk, I've been a guest lecturer at Duke's Pratt School of Engineering, an entrepreneur in residence at 500 Startups, a mentor in residence at Techstars, and was the founding engineer of Mint.com.
I am on my second career. In my first career, I spent 25 years building software products. I started out as a software engineer and over time moved to the executive level, where I was a vice president at Adobe Systems. Now, in my second career, I'm an advocate for women, which means I do a lot of public speaking about diversity, about women's leadership topics, and I've given a TEDx talk.
The Confident Communicator course is a live online course that Karen and I co-teach together once a year for 8 weeks. In this video series, we're going to give you a sense of what the Confident Communicator course is and what you'll get out of it.
If you sign up below for this video series, you'll learn about the challenges Purnima and I have faced learning the craft of public speaking ourselves. You'll learn why we decided we just couldn't keep all of this knowledge to ourselves so that they could learn to become better public speakers and confident communicators. And you'll hear from students who have taken the class about how they have become more confident communicators.
You're going to get a behind-the-scenes look at the entire course. You'll meet some past students and see how they went from being shy and nervous to poised and confident communicators. You're also going to meet employers and sponsors who found the course valuable enough to invest in and send their people. And finally, you'll get some sample lessons so you know the material that we're going to be covering. Sign up below to receive the first lesson immediately, where you'll understand why it's not good enough to just be heads down. You need to speak up to get the recognition you deserve. Ciao for now.